Hello, everybody! Today we're going to be talking about the first chapter of this Ley Lan, this Divine Contention saga, which is Stormlord's Wrath. We're going to go over, first of all, some of these characters that were involved in this saga. So, to start us off, we'll start with the two people that are actually here, and of course we're going to go and talk with probably the face of the party, due to him having the biggest face in general, you know? So, Nick, you want to go and talk about your boy Dagian?
Hello. So I was playing in this campaign Dagian Aegis, the Loxodon, Oath of Redemption Paladin. I went into this campaign, probably with the most D&D experience out of anyone in the group. And so I was kind of going into it with like, okay, I'm gonna be like a big support-based character, and I don't want to try and like take like the spotlight from people who are kind of like going through this for the first time, and like I certainly tried my best, but I ended up being the party face. So
It's easy to do when you're the charisma class, you know. So
yeah, I think I decided on my class and subclass the day of, because I kept going back and forth between a couple things.
I think it was specifically Forge Cleric was one of the ones you were really looking into.
Yeah.
Like, I think that one and a Paladin were, like, some of the big ones, and you were kind of debating on, like, do we need, like, frontline? Do we need, like, more support? And then he kind of just did it all. So...
Yeah, Dagian was big supporting boy. I guess how much into his character do you want me to go here, or...
Well, we'll stop right there for now. We'll go and get into more of your character with where you were at that point at the start of this first mission. Alright, next we're gonna go to our other host, which will be...
So, like, I think making him, this was gonna be, like, I think technically my second ever D&D character. And my first one was literally, like, the most, like, generic rogue you could ever come up with.
Oh, you mean Milo?
Milo, who
Yeah!
was like, my parents died, and now I'm a thief, and I do everything for myself because I'm a thief.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very much like, when I, like, starting off, it was like, this is kind of cool, and then looking back, fairly uninspired.
Yeah.
And just kind of, like, taking face value what, like, the class said.
Mm-hmm.
So...
But, I mean, for your first class, there's nothing wrong with playing tropes, like...
No, there's nothing wrong with the trope, but, like, as someone who likes to think I'm fairly creative, I felt very uncreative. So, I wasn't sure what I wanted to play. I liked the idea of spell stuff, and I kind of, if I was gonna play D&D long term, I wanted to like get spells figured out so that it wasn't like a complicated learning curve later. So I was leaning towards like a druid or maybe like a wizard, especially because like the rest of the party wasn't really like a full caster. I think I was the only caster.
You were the only full caster. There was 2 half casters, but they didn't use
Which
their
is, like...
spells too much for like combat.
Right. So I was like, I could have played whatever I wanted, but it made the most sense because it had like the most versatility.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was looking at the subclasses, and I was like, this spore druid thing sounds interesting.
Yeah.
It's all about like decay. What if I make a druid? At first I was like, what if I make a druid that hates nature? But that doesn't really make sense.
I will use nature because I hate it.
But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, he doesn't need to hate nature. He just needs to hate like the way nature is like dealt with. And I had been watching like a lot of Critical Role before I played. Like I watched maybe their entire first campaign before I even played in this one.
Nice.
So I saw what they did, and I was like, they're very much into just like protect nature, protect like whatever. I'm like, that's cool, but like nature doesn't like to be micromanaged in that way.
Yeah.
And so like, what if there was a druid who's like, you guys are doing too much, you just gotta let nature do its thing. and he's like low key like an eco terrorist. And he's like, wow, the druids are using their magic to force these like plants to like grow food. What if the plant doesn't want that? What if the plant just wants to die?
I kind of forgot how much like literally being an eco-terrorist was like a key factor of the Cosmos character.
Yeah.
So,
like,
we'll get into some of like where he was at that point, but he was not liked by a lot of the other druids.
Yeah. So I basically just made him as like, not necessarily like an anti-druid, but like what I thought was a creative take on the I'm so into nature, but instead of like loving it, it's like loving it for the purity that it is, and therefore like incorporating a lot of like those factors into how he interacts with like the world and the party.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to resurrection.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But yeah, you were definitely more of a druid that was based on just balance, where it felt like a lot of the druids were prioritizing nature over like the balance, like trying to go and have nature like have this like alpha strike, be able to like stay alive, be able to like go and have the advantage. They were definitely prioritizing giving nature an advantage rather than keeping nature in balance. And it felt like you were that nature's wrath balance, trying to go and bring this balance back into the picture. Not against nature, but
I see it
against, like unnatural preservation.
Yeah, like that, and just like give nature the respect it deserves. Like it will like survive in the end. So like we don't need to baby it. And we also like, just because you think this is good doesn't mean we need to make it that way. Like it's the opposite. It's just the opposite mindset, which I don't think, at least from what I had seen, been explored too much.
No, like there's a couple of subclasses that I think lean into it a little bit, but I've never actually seen them played that way. But Wildfire Druid and Spore Druid are very based in like, oh yeah, the natural cycle of nature, but then they just continue to make more nature, they continue to rapidly grow it, continue to keep it alive. Like there's never actually like that gameplay point where they're like, oh yeah, like the cycle of nature, let's go and destroy some nature to go and make sure that it leads way to new nature or something like that. They never had that cycle aspect. You just become the plant person.
Plant person.
Alright. Now next one. I'll roll highs or lows. High will go and do rights, lows will do left. That will be left. So we are going with Mr. I was about to say main character. He's not main character, but Mr. Character that's going to be relevant. Yeah, Mr. Character that's going to be relevant, very relevant later on, you know? This is going to be the Archer Ochizor. Ochizor had a complicated history with stuff. That'll certainly come up later, and once it comes up more naturally and diegetically, we'll definitely go over that a little bit more. I believe he was paired up with one of you guys. Wasn't he paired up with you, Cosmos?
I think he and Cosmo did show up.
Yeah. I think that
at the same time.
I think you guys were in the same area at the same time when you were kind of traveling there. But regardless, he was at this time a hunter ranger, and he was sort of a wanderer, person just trying to find himself, a little bit more on the reserved, quiet side. Definitely only spoke up when he felt it mattered.
I completely forgot he was originally a hunter ranger.
Yes!
I am now remembering that.
Yes, for the whole first arc, for all of the stuff we're talking about today, he was a hunter. He was a hunter ranger.
Okay.
So yeah, it didn't happen for a little while. And yeah, any other details from the onset that you guys remember about Ochizor?
I think, but like we mentioned, like the main character thing, like he was definitely his backstory. Like we didn't find out until a bit later, but he was like the most fully integrated with like the main story and plot of the whole campaign. Whereas the rest of us were kind of like our own, like we had our own kind of like separate like beginnings and then ended up in this situation. Ochizor was like, this is all very, very close for him, close to home for him.
Yeah, and that sort of
Right.
got naturally built up like through the process. Like I don't think Ethan and I came in with some of those ideas. We had like a general idea of some of the things, but it was a character that definitely was built along the way to be like, oh wait, this totally fits with this character. Let's go and find a way to naturally include this into the story. And I think
I was
that,
gonna ask about that,
Yeah.
yeah, because it seemed like this was his first ever like D&D experience,
Yeah.
from what I can understand. So,
yeah,
like,
his first actual one. The other one was like a pretty memey one.
Yeah.
Like this was the first one where I think it's like, oh yeah, we're all coming with our characters, we're role playing as them and being serious like the whole time, you know.
and I think that's a really interesting way to like introduce somebody to D&D, as like come up with your character and then like as we play, if there's something you think would like make sense to be a part of their backstory, like throw it in, because
Mhm.
that, I think getting him integrated into that, like how do you put it, like getting him integrated into the story and making him sort of that main character, I think made him a lot more comfortable, because like as we've seen, Ethan is an amazing player. He has great story moments, but whenever we do one shots, he's like, I'm not really attached to the character.
I don't feel it. I can't feel this character, so I just don't care. You know, yeah.
And so like I think
Yeah.
him being invested in that way helped him as a player, which in then turn like made everything that we did feel so much better.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I
But yeah,
feel like I kind of did an opposite thing where I was like, I have a very like my backstory was in the past and is done, and so anything else that happens now, like there will be no integration. He is just reacting to the current plot.
which to be fair, there's a lot of plot to react to. There certainly are a couple of things that do grow and do change with Dagian, but I think you're right. It's not specifically with Dagian. Dagian's a very static character that just helps other people grow, and the other people becomes that story.
Yeah, Dagan overcame his trauma long ago, and
Yeah.
he's just here for everybody else.
Yeah, everyone needs a big elephant paladin, you know, lean a
all-
shoulder on.
We all need that like anchor, like wise character who like can see things from a more nuanced perspective because they've already seen probably the worst thing they're ever gonna experience.
Yeah.
I will say it also probably did help that there was just a character that was unabashedly sort of righteous, like to push the party to be like, okay, yeah, we're hurt, this sucks, but like we just need to go through and stop this before it causes problems, you know?
Yeah.
You're
That
definitely
was
very good at
something
motivating
I was-
and pushing them.
Yeah, that was definitely something I was worried about initially, because like the whole point of Dagian was like I was like gonna be in the background, more supporty, and let people shine, and then I realized like, oh, I need to be our current party setup. I have to be the motivator. I have to get us going and make decisions.
Yep, for sure. Without Dagian there to make some decision, like it's not like everyone was like super reserved, but everyone was a little bit more passive than what a leader would be. No one like initially went into a leadership role.
Yeah.
All right, and that'll bring us to our last character, who is a human fighter, a human champion fighter, because that's the way he started as well. Both him and Ochizor started as like the base classes and eventually, you know, grew on from that. But this is the human fighter Shade. So Shade has a bit of a mystery past, a little bit more on the side of I have a darker past, darker backstory that I'm just not willing to open up and share quite yet, you know. He comes in and he's not hostile, not like the edgy, brooding rogue, but definitely someone who has probably been a little bit damaged, you know, been through one too many fights, you know. And I think that is something that's also pretty interesting about this campaign, is that with you guys started at level 7, so everyone had a little bit of heroics, a little bit of actions to bring you to this point.
Was it level 6 or?
I think it was 7. I'm pretty sure you guys start. No, we're supposed to have Ethan watch this. He's gonna hate us.
Sorry, I had to get one in. I had to get one.
He had to get that one. Had to get that.
It was inevitable.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure we all started at 6 and then ended at level 13. I guess technically level 14 with the final, haha, you leveled up, but that was after the final boss was dealt with, so. But yeah, you guys, this is the group, this is the party, and currently, at the beginning of this adventure, we start at what is called the Wayside Inn. This is a little place at the crossroads of, in terms of the whole map of the Sword Coast, there's a little path that goes from Phandalin to Neverwinter and down to Leyland. This is at like that crossroad right there. It's supposed to be right at this corner, in between where Leyland or where Phandalin's path at the Triboar Trail sort of like forks in the road, gives it a little T. So it's right there, about halfway from Neverwinter to Leyland, and we have the party all meet up there, you know, in a tavern as is tradition. But they're a little bit split up at this time. I believe Ochizor and Cosmo are together, and then Dagian and Shade start off together.
Yeah, I don't remember the specifics on like had we been traveling together, or was it just like we started like we were both in the tavern and you're like, oh okay, you two.
Yeah, because I think I do remember. I think you guys were already in the tavern.
Yes, Dagian and Shade should have been in the tavern. I don't think that they were specifically traveling together.
I think
I don't remember
Ochizor
any
and
of
Yeah.
we were traveling together because I remember we had that whole joke where we're like, we can go left to the tavern or we can go right, and you were like in the middle. You were like in the middle of getting attacked by these like ghost things, and we're like, should we help or should we go to the right? And then it became a joke for like the next like the first few sessions where we're like, we should have gone right. We should
have gone the other way. It would have solved all these problems we had.
And I think it made sense that Dagian would be like in there like holding down the fort, like protecting the people, and Shade just slashing things.
Yeah. So
that's what I remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the way the scenario is set up is that you guys, two of you guys were inside the inn, just sort of like where the common room is at the tavern, and then two people were on the outside. So what happened was someone like just ran inside screaming, being like, "There's a zombie! There's some zombies!" And then you guys are all like, "Oh, okay." And then the zombies start breaking down the doors, so you guys start barricading, barring up the doors, try to go and protect the whole area. And then after that happens, you realize that there's not just zombies, there's also wraiths who happen to like just teleport in, just sort of walk through the walls because they're wraiths and they can do that. So it quickly became an issue of you guys were getting a little bit overwhelmed at this point. And there is you all were strong, you probably weren't in severe danger yourself, but both you, Dagian, and Shade were definitely on the more lawful, or not necessarily even lawful, you were lawful good, but on the good side where you guys wanted to protect all the civilians. So you were going out, you were trying to go and protect them all, and then it came down to Ochizor and Cosmo to try to, I guess, go and give you guys support and help out as you saw like the ghostly apparitions going through the doors and the big zombie horde that was sort of coming in hot on their trail.
I'm trying to remember you talking about like being on the side of good and like fighting to protect the people. I know Shade was a mercenary. Was that a thing that came up during that fight? Like I can't remember if he like asked for gold or something.
I don't
or
think
did he just fight?
Did. I think that he fought.
Yeah.
I don't think, despite Shade being a mercenary, like in his backstory, I don't think he actually asked very much for gold, because I think that was very much a thing in his past where he had been like a little bit burned by mercenary groups, and he was kind of just sort of where Ochizor was, where it's just like, man, my first doing adventuring stuff didn't exactly like pan out. Like both of them were sort of in a midlife crisis stage where they were like trying to figure out themselves and their characters at this time.
Yeah, I wanted to establish that because like when a character's a mercenary, like I feel like it's easy to be like, oh, they're probably asking for money at every opportunity.
They're like, how much money you give me? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't really remember Shade asking for money a whole lot for stuff.
No, by and large, Shade was pretty much on like the side of like the people and fighting for good. He really wasn't as like roguish. Like I say, like with how I described his backstory, he does have like this almost rogue-like backstory, but he doesn't have the typical greed and thievery that a lot of the rogues do have. Like,
Yeah.
he just is the damage part of the rogue without, you know, the inherent distrust of humanity and trauma in wanting to get what he deserves back from, like, what many rogues do, you know?
He almost had like it seemed like he was going for the I was a hero in my past, but like in the end I wasn't fighting for the right side, or like the result wasn't what I thought it would be, and so now I'm here.
Yeah,
Is kind of the vibe I got.
absolutely.
His backstory was there were times when we got Zach it's really entertaining to play with Zach, because there will be times when we're playing, like we're hearing a backstory and then he just drops like the most random lore and we're like, wait, you did what now?
Yeah, he just like finds these like little pieces like that aren't
Yeah.
necessarily even played with me. Usually, like with a lot of backstory beats, I try to like work them in with the story. He usually finds these opportunities to go and like just drop like serious lore for you guys and be like, oh yeah, this is like what happened with me. This is like this huge part of this
Yeah.
character, and then
Like, I think with Shade specifically, there was one time where he was just like, yeah, so like I like murdered a king in like this kingdom and like started a war or something, and we're just like,
What? What do
And,
you
like,
mean?
and like I want him to just like give he needs to be here to just give like the full backstory, because I don't even know, it was so long ago.
we'll get him here for next one to go and give him all the backstory. Next, I would say there are kind of arcs for how characters were throughout all the things. I think that this first sort of arc was establishing a lot of like Dagian, if I was to go and say it. I think like Dagian was like pushing a lot of the things. I think the second arc was probably a lot more pushing with Shade and doing his sort of grudge with Talos. And then after that, then I think it kind of splits a little bit with everyone and gives a little bit more Chizor focus at the end. So I think like in terms of the three sort of arc structure, then you have that. And then you have to steal the show at the end, Jared. So that
Right,
epilogue
yeah, I had
was
to.
you.
Yeah, because I remember Cosmos stuff kind of came in towards like the very end, like
Yeah.
one of the last things we did,
Mhm.
and then the like very end stuff. But that wasn't necessarily like backstory, but
Yeah.
we got more of his like towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be working with characters and describing what's been going on for sure, like when a lot more of the character things come up. While you guys are in the Wayside Inn, there wasn't too much that happened. You guys mostly handled the zombies pretty easily. I think that you had Martisha. She was like a half-elf person. I think I gave like a bad Ben Shapiro accent to her for some reason. I did like this sort
You
of,
were-
hey folks, you need to do this. You get this amount of money. You go and do this. This is a fair deal. You're gonna take it, okay? And
Yeah, that was everyone's
Yeah,
favorite character.
I do
We
Oh,
were
yeah.
gonna call that.
I forgot how much you guys actually hated that. Just have one NPC that's a little bit pushy, and you guys are like, yeah, no, this guy sucks. This girl sucks.
Maybe
Really,
it wasn't her, because like there wasn't.
No, there-
was, like
you're-
hunting us down and like constantly involving themselves.
You're right.
There was her. I do know her though.
that
the
was
voice.
a halfling.
Okay.
So that was a halfling named Sela Scalesweep. And she was sort of going around and it sort of followed you guys, you know, because she was basically a part of your crew. She calls you the crew, by the way, and she just jumped into your party and is like, yep, I'm part of you guys. Oh, except when there's danger. I'm definitely not. And she just sort of...
She was in the tavern, right? At the
Yes,
very beginning.
yes, she was. Yeah, she was like one of the only ones that actually stayed with you guys and kind of became slightly reoccurring. Not too much, just like a little bit. But she was
think
going
I
on
just
her way to
remember-
Leylon, which is why she did travel along with you.
Yeah. I feel like I remember just like Ethan's absolute bloodlust over over the character.
Yeah, absolutely. It is funny to see what characters make others tick. Ochizor definitely hated Sela.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys were able to go and defeat all the zombies and all the wraiths, and then after that, I think that there was a little... We did this in person. I think this is one of the only sessions we did fully in person. There's a little wiggly tube man that, like, started going off. You guys had happy hour. You guys got some nice drinks, and, you know, we're esteemed as some heroes. And, yeah, you all decided that you were going onward towards this small little town of Leylon. Calling it a town at this point was honestly a bit of an overstatement. It's pretty generous to call this a town, because this town had been destroyed for about 100 years. It used to be a small fishing village, but then, due to some things that happened that we'll go over a little bit later, it got completely ransacked, completely abandoned and destroyed. And now, with some funding from Waterdeep, from Neverwinter, they want to have a little halfway point in between the two towns, or the two cities, which would be Leylon. If this is able to be a good place for merchants to go and rest, for them to be able to be safe, especially in this area near the Mire of Dead Men, it would be very, very beneficial. So they are all trying to go and put some more funding to try to go and establish this place to just help out those poor little merchants. With that, you all begin to travel along towards Leylon. And when you go to Leylon, you find that there is a dwarf girl who is outside of the camp, and she is sort of furious with the whole town, the whole crew that is there. She's like, man, that was like literally the worst evacuation job ever. We are so unprepared for everything. This is so awful. Like, they just ran in and we weren't even able to escape properly. Like, what are we even doing here? And she was Griselda. She was the person who was ready to reconstruct and build the fortifications. But before that, she was, or I suppose the whole group was sort of besieged and attacked by a group of Talos worshippers. Another important character that I don't actually know what his endgame was, but there was Sergeant Haz Yoram, who was the quickest guard on duty to run in the opposite direction of all conflict and all issues that are coming up. So he was one of those that none of the group exactly liked either, and he was very much on, well, we lost the town, we're just gonna, you know, we're just gonna wait it out and see what happens. So with you all being there, you decided to go and talk with some of the town council, I suppose to be the best way to call them. So there was a lot of town council members who asked you for help after seeing some adventurers come up, seeing that their own guards are unwilling to do anything, and especially because there's a mother that comes in and she is saying, oh no, my kids are still in there with all those cultists. Yeah, can I maybe get some guards to help? And then the guards are like, nope, kids are too slow, they can't keep up with me, so they've got to go and run away by themselves. And then you guys are here and willing to go and help out with this situation, especially when hearing that there are children involved.
Didn't we, like, manage to convince the guards to, like, do something in this scenario? I don't think they, like, fought with us in combat, but I felt like we had convinced them to do something.
Yeah, I think that they might have gotten convinced to do something. I forget what exactly it was. It wasn't the most relevant thing. Maybe they just helped out with, like, pulling people out from the water.
Maybe.
Because I don't know if you actually convinced Sergeant Haz Yoram. Maybe you did, but he was not very apt to working with you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had our first encounter with some undead of Merkel, and now we're getting our first encounter with our cultists of Talos, which, as it would happen, you guys get pursued and engaged by a couple of Cult of Talos members, and one of these characters is one that we'll be seeing quite a bit later on, because you go into a quick fight, a quick skirmish, you're able to beat most of them off until there's only one left. And, well, I guess, Nick, do you want to describe what you remember of what happened during the scene as you met the character Marshall?
Yes. So, I remember Marshall was part of this group of Talos cultists, and Dagian, being a paladin Oath of Redemption, he was very much trying to convince these people that, like, they must be like horribly mistaken in their beliefs of violence. And I think it was Marshall that we had this kind of moment
it
where
absolutely was, yeah.
yeah. So Marshall, we start discussing with him his beliefs, and he's like, Talos is gonna flood the world, and only the strong will survive, and it'll be this massive storm. And we started kind of dissecting that, and it was like, okay, so let's say the world is flooded. Don't you live on the world?
Then he's like, well, yeah, but like I can breathe. Like he would give us power to go and breathe, you know? Like, and I can swim too. It's fine.
Yeah, we were kind of like, well, let's say that you do, and so you're just gonna be in the water for the rest of your life. And like he was definitely like on the newer side of the cult, so like these beliefs weren't like he wasn't fully in on everything, and so like this definitely wouldn't have worked on everyone, but we kind of just kept like poking holes in what he was saying until eventually he just kind of like Dagian managed to convince him to surrender and give up.
If I'm remembering right, I believe the final straw was like sort of a conversation of, okay, you can do all this stuff, but what happens like when you need to go to sleep? And then like it was just like the final logical straw where he's like, oh gosh, I didn't even think about what happens when I go to sleep, if I can like breathe underwater, if I can like swim or do anything like that. And it's like, yeah. Oh gosh, I didn't think about that. And he's just like freaking out, like realizing how naive he sort of was at this moment, as Dagian's just sort of like poking and prodding at like what this cult is actually doing and what the ends of this are going to entail.
Yeah. And that ended up becoming kind of a very key moment in the campaign, because after Dagian kind of convinces Marshall that like, hey, we shouldn't be doing this, and like maybe there's some flaws in what you think this Talos thing is going to result in, Dagian tells Marshall, because like obviously Marshall has been involved with this cult and has done some not so savory things, and so Dagian offers Marshall that like if he wants to try and like figure things out and maybe make things right, that he should travel to the Order of the Gauntlet and seek redemption there. And so Marshall would not exactly at this point, but this would be the beginnings of the Squad of Redemption, which becomes kind of the main thing that Dagian is doing throughout this campaign.
Yep, absolutely. He's like the first piece of that puzzle that will continually grow, improve, and be constantly reoccurring. Definitely remember that name, the Squad of Redemption, because they're definitely like a B plot for Dagian this entire run through for the campaign.
Yeah, so he sends Marshall away to the Order of the Gauntlet, and he doesn't officially become a member of the Squad of Redemption. Does not form until a little bit later.
He's like the first character that we're like, we don't need to kill everyone, we can talk to a few of them.
Yeah, I feel like that was a really crazy moment. Like every moment that I've DM'd before, it's very much like, oh, this is an enemy, well, I need to kill them, there's no other way. Like, this is the first moment I've had in a D&D thing where people, like, had the fights, were able to de-escalate after they had clearly won, and then tried to show some path of redemption. Tried to show some other way, and it was, like, crazy to see the roleplay that was going on at this moment with all you guys.
A lot of that was, like, also due to, like, as an Oath of Redemption paladin, like, Dagian was, like, by oath obligated to do that. Like if he didn't at least try to de-escalate, he would be violating his oath. And so like that definitely pushed me to like get things started. And then like thankfully everyone else in the party were not just like murder hobos and like, no, we're just gonna kill everyone, you're stupid.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, he's an enemy, we're gonna Ochizo fires 27 shots into his face, you know? There's none of that, and it's really cool. Like, I think that there is some discussion, some, like, questioning if this is the right thing to do, but I think after everyone starts to hear Dagian talk, I think that they start to believe it too, like, the party members themselves are buying into what he's saying.
Yeah.
Because
like, low-key, it became, like, core tenets of ours, kind of, in a way.
Yeah.
Where, like, we would always, like, be like, well, Dagian, try And then if you fail, you're like, well, let's kill him. And you're like, okay.
Yeah. It very
Yeah.
much did become you guys were trying to negotiate, talk first, and then fighting was a last resort, which I think was just a really cool character thing for all of you guys, because so many of you guys had more of a damaged past. You guys had been burned by people you trusted. You guys had seen death. You had fought a lot. And then you're getting a very humble, you're getting a very righteous person to just sort of lead a new path, and I feel like you guys were kind of growing along with that. Like, I think Dagian definitely had influences with the whole group,
Yeah.
so that was really cool to see, I think. After that, though, after you sent Marshall off, you started to approach the town, and then in the town center you saw that there were two children that were just sort of strapped into sort of a sacrificial like altar, like a wooden makeshift altar, and they were like kind of getting close to the waves. The waves were getting violent. They were kind of going above the town, and they were starting to rocket towards where these children were being set up with the altar. And there in the middle was a tiefling priestess who was, her name was apparently Nixaxius, which I forgot until I just read that now. And she was essentially the opposite side of Marshall, where Marshall was a very confused, a very young, naive person that sort of just got swept into the cult. She was definitely one of the people that was ride or die for Talos, for power, where
Yeah.
power and serving Talos was everything to her. And even if it meant sacrificing kids, I mean, kids were probably the best thing to sacrifice, actually, you know? Like, Talos doesn't like weak things, and what is weaker than a kid? So, yeah, go and sacrifice those. Talos loves that, you know? Like...
Yeah, Dagian certainly tried with her, but yeah, she was already at the sacrificing kids phase, so there wasn't.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, you can't come back from that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think it is important to note, Dagian did try to redeem most everyone, but he wasn't an idiot with redeeming. He wasn't like, I'm gonna cry and say that this genocidal dictator needs to go and redeem themselves, you know? It wasn't redeem everyone, it was redeem everyone who was willing, and knowing when they were too far gone, or knowing when there was a fight that was needed to take place.
Yeah,
so.
Dagian was kind of like a everyone gets one. Like, everyone gets a chance, and, like, a lot of the times, if they weren't willing to talk immediately, like, the stakes were too high to, like, continue talking, like, because there were kids on the line there.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, I guess one thing before we made it to this tiefling lady, I think this is the first time that Cosmo used his like spore zombies. I remember he made like 2 spore zombies and was like sending them around the town to do stuff.
I forgot that was a
Yeah.
characteristic where you were just able to raise up the dead with spores and like have your little minions.
And I never used it that often. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the ability was like exceptionally good, especially because like when you can do so many better things with like, I think it was an action.
Yeah.
Like early on, it's good to get like maybe a little bit of action economy, or to be like, hey, go walk down that hallway, make sure there's not a trap.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
early on, I was just experimenting with like what it has,
it can do.
and
Yeah.
it definitely brought some moral questions to the group. I think I don't really remember exactly, but
I think
don't
that was
remember
where
how Dakin
Cosmos.
reacted.
I think that's where Cosmos started to like go and give his perspective on the life cycle and just like where he stands on living and dying. I guess, you know.
and I think that came up when we were saving the kids,
Mm-hmm.
because I think
Oh,
one of
yeah.
them like died.
Yeah,
one
that's
of the
right.
kids died.
The water was absolutely just crashing into him and submerging him, and I was rolling the con saves, and one kid just immediately failed. Like,
And I
just
think Cosmo
rolled
was, like-
terribly, just immediately drowned, basically, while the fight was going on. Because this was not an easy fight. Like, this was you guys getting shocked with, like, lightning bolts. Like, you guys were getting hammered at this point. And...
And since Dagian is a half caster at this point, he didn't have any kind of revivify spell available.
Not for 2 more
So
levels.
the only person who could have done anything was Cosmo, who had his own beliefs about that.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you
Like,
want to go into that, Jared.
yeah, like you were able to beat Noxiosus,
Yeah.
and you found out that one of the kids was alive, one of them was dead, and it really did come up to Cosmo being here and needing to go and decide on what his views of this were, because I don't think he's even experienced like this conundrum before. Like, what happens
No.
when someone so young dies from something so malicious?
Do you remember? We saved him, right?
Yes, you
Yeah,
did.
we did.
Okay.
And
I
that
think
was like
I think it was a thing because like his whole thing was nature takes its course and it like is kind of it was like good in the sense of like I'm making sure that nature's not being abused by like druids or whatever, but then it's also flawed because he views everything as so black and white of like, well, if you died, that's nature saying you should have died. And he kind of like fights with that in that moment of like, well, this kid should have just held his breath longer.
Kid,
Like-
skill issue. You shouldn't have died. I almost
like,
wonder if
Yeah.
Cosmo being here, seeing what the extreme of this view is, this Talos-like view where, oh yeah, the weak just should die off, They're weak. I wonder if this is like almost a character defining, like a character paradigm shift where he was on a certain path, but then maybe it nudges him in a little direction where he's like, oh, that could be the end result of like how calloused my heart will be if I just think, oh, you're a weak kid. Well, nature,
It definitely helped.
Yeah.
Make
I
him-
feel like this thing that happened at the very beginning of the campaign with this kid dying and Cosmo reviving him directly leads to Cosmo's ultimate fate in the campaign, because that was the kind of like Cosmo has shifted the balance by doing this. And because I remember Cosmo and Dagian kind of start to like bond and get closer after this because Cosmo is dealing with his own belief shifting.
Like, it's definitely like the start of his character arc and just his progression with what his ideals are, because I feel like his ideals were the only ones that were like shifting and being challenged through a lot of things, which I do really like. I feel like, Nick, when you were mentioning how Talos felt like the main sort of like thing that was being dealt with, I think that's mostly because a lot of everyone's characters dealt directly with Talos. Like, Dagian
Yeah.
had a lot of, my character is trying to go and save some of the cult members of Talos. You can't really save undead. Like, the undead,
Yeah.
they're under control, they're kind of being dealt with. Like, redeeming them doesn't really work. Putting them to rest is like the only thing you can do. And then you have Cosmo kind of going through this conundrum, this sort of strong versus weak, unnatural death versus a natural death. And then later on we have Shade, and he starts to have like more grudge matches with some Cult of Talos members. And I don't think specifically Ochizor has a direct connection. I might be wrong on that.
Chizor was more connected with Leyline and
Yeah.
like all of like the stuff that was happening relating to Leyline and then like targeting it, and he had more of like a personal history with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, he was definitely more Leyline focused more than the cults, and it was just the cults that were intruding on it, where it's like, no, this is my town.
Yeah, because Talos was kind of attacking the town just kind of for the sake of it, and Merkel had like a specific goal that had to deal with that specific town.
Yes, absolutely. The reason why this town had been gone for 100 years kind of begins to come back up, begins to rise up as Merkel's machinations and plot kind of take place. But Talos is just like, oh, this is a coastal town? Cool. That's mine.
Yeah.
like it is just like cult members that are just like, well, yeah, of course we
How
would go and take
convenient
over a
for me.
cult town, like a coastal town. This is where we're strongest. This is what we can do. We can just flood the land and take over it. Easy,
Yeah. I guess
Why hadn't we
in-
thought of this before?
Yeah, exactly.
in this kind of like summary that we're doing, like, should we be like withholding spoilers, I guess, or like how do you want to do that?
I feel like you can definitely infer, let people know what is going on, but I feel like let the story moments when they, like the big story moments coming up, like let them come up. Like what you do in Cosmos, like just definitely wait on some of those things for when they come up.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
We
Yeah.
can definitely we refer to it though. We're like
Yeah.
later on, it makes a lot more like.
Oh yeah,
this comes
absolutely.
up
Like
later.
when there's something that's coming up later, like you can definitely foreshadow or say like when this is the start of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. After that, you guys are near this sort of barge yard. You're like at the coast of it, and then you see that there was actually some more sacrifices, some more stuff that was going on over near this like idle island. There's a couple of like little small like islands that are just like barely above the water, and you see that you all, after taking like a pretty harsh fight versus this cultist, she like honestly hurt you guys a fair bit, need to immediately go into another fight because the spell's still activated in some way, and some water elementals and some water weirds like sort of came up and started going and hurting you guys, and especially threatening some of the cultists. So, or not the cultists, some of the townsfolk that were also taken by the cultists. So I believe all of you guys went over to it, except for Ochizor. I don't.
He went to go find Galio.
Yes,
This
yes.
was when we introduced Galio. And
Yeah.
so he was like, I'm gonna go talk to the wizard guy now, and we're all like, stop.
Yeah. Which,
And then we almost died.
Yeah,
because
you-
Galio killed us.
you all were definitely really hurt at this point, and he's like, oh, this isn't good. I need to go and talk with this wizard guy. I think that you guys got mentioned that there was a wizard that was still up in this House of Thalavar. He was up there in this tall tower, and Ochizor runs up, basically sprints away from all of you guys to go and try to get help, and he goes up, and then he just sees Galio that's just, like, sitting there, sort of in a meditative trance, just flipping through pages of books, flipping through, like, different scrying orbs and everything, and then he's just, like, trying to desperately search and find for, a magical item, a magical artifact. And Ochizor is just like trying to convince him, trying to do everything he can, and then I think Galio specifically name drops that it is a ruin stone that he is looking for, which is going to be an important integral part to Leylon as a whole. It is a magical artifact, as he describes, that essentially led to the ruination of this whole area, this whole problem, that led this town to get destroyed. And Ochizor is just trying to go and help him out, trying to go and give him some other view and perspective on why it is important to go and save the town, because Galio is so headstrong and focused on what he needs to do. He sees, oh, this magical item is really powerful. If anything happens to that, it doesn't matter about the town, but Ochizor, with a natural 20, I believe, I think it straight up was a natural 20 on persuasion,
Yeah,
was
I
able to
think
go
so.
and convince Galio, hey, we need to go and save those people out there. Like, this town matters. And with that, Galio goes and casts Fly spell on them both. They begin to go charging out towards the Idle Island with all you guys. I think at this point, Cosmo had dropped. I think he was the first one to go down, was making death saves. And then you were, like,
Yeah.
just in the middle of the water. And then Galio's like, all right, here comes an ice storm. And then it goes straight down on Cosmo, who then takes like a death failure, and then you're really, really ticked off at him by this because he almost killed you.
Yeah.
You were like getting absolutely destroyed, and he was
hit
able to.
us with multiple area of effect spells.
Yeah.
in the process of this.
There was a lot of anger towards Galio at the beginning, and I think only Ochizor trusted him for the most part.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think Cosmo and Shade were like this close to actually just like punching him. I think Shade might have done that actually. Like, I think Shade went down almost immediately after, and like Shade took a hit, and then Shade's like,
I remember like 90% of that battle map was just like rough terrain water, so like we were all moving at half movement speed, so we couldn't really get away from them.
No.
I think it was like Cosmo and Shade were going down, so Dagian was just like trying to wade through the water to get them up, or just like carry their bodies and trying to get them as far away as possible.
yeah, I think it
And
literally
then suddenly
was
the ice storm came in.
that ice attack. Which, I mean, in Galio's defense, the ice storm was pretty effective at killing a lot of things, but wasn't
was.
really. He was so much of a man of efficiency, and just like, this is objectively the correct thing. If I go and do this, then it hits everyone. Who cares if it hits those other guys too, you know? Like, killing all these things is what really matters, and you can start to see those character flaws start to, like, pop up with Galio, where it's just like, this is, in my mind, the objective right thing to do if everything goes this way, you know? But
Yeah, I
definitely
guess,
not
like,
good
as
for the
far
party,
as-
because Ochizor was the only one who cared at all for him after that.
Yeah, I guess like speaking of like important things for the future of this this Faerun setting we're building, Ochizor and Galio's friendship is a very important point.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
becomes a thing.
Very much became ride or die for like both of them. Like I'd say for NPCs, everyone had an important NPC that they eventually had or knew, or an important group. Like with Dagian, we mentioned the Oath of Redemption, the Squad of Redemption. With Shade, he had like Anna, he had some mercenaries. Ochizor, he had some people like specifically Galio, and Cosmo, he did have some lizard folk and some other druids that he conversed with a little bit. It was mostly lizards though.
The lizards.
The lizards. So yeah, but we'll get into some of those later. Specifically, Galio was very much ride or die with Ochizor at this point. Galio probably didn't feel that way yet, but Ochizor was definitely sort of the person that was most on his side. He was a higher level spellcaster. He was a little bit up on you guys in terms of levels at this point. Eventually that did change, but he was the strongest of you all at this point. And sort of after that battle, went back over to the House of Alavar, continued his studies. I think, like I was mentioning before, Shade was like legitimately about to like just try to punch him. Like I think Dagian needed to go and stop them, or Ochizor needed to stop him or something. Because Shade was like 1 HP, being like, "You are gonna kill us! You're gonna let us die out there! All of us, we're gonna die because of your stupid spells!" And then he's like, "Yeah, but like, it worked, didn't it? Like, come on." I casted it there because it killed everything.
Yeah, I think Dagian had to step in there because it was like, we can't start a fight with this wizard who already clearly has powerful spells. We barely survived the water element.
Yeah, you guys were like at death's door. At least multiple of you were. Cosmo and Shade both at 1 HP. Ochizor was probably doing a little bit okay. I think Dagian was probably 1 or 2 hits from dying too, so it wasn't a great situation for anyone. But Galio was fine, you know, that's how he rolled. With that, you all saved the town of Leylon. You were able to go and save this area. You were able to go and make it your new home. You began to find ways to go and influence the map, and you were able to go and look at a couple of places, which 2 most important ones, I think, would be that you found a shop owner by the name of Anna, a sort of red-haired shop owner, has a lot of sisters, always down for making money and selling items, and
definitely not literally just Anna from Fire Emblem.
No, definitely no plagiarism involved here. I don't know what you're talking about.
All of our characters are original and not inspired by anything.
Exactly, original OC. Do not steal. Yeah. So yeah, and specifically Shade was one of the people that knew her going into this and was a little bit more connected, knew that she was a little bit price gougy, but overall still fair, gives you quality items for her quality products, but just not really willing to cut you a discount. So you found her around the area, and then you found the Particularities shop, which was run by Aubrey Jr., and Aubrey was a member of a group called the Swords of Leylon, which was here about 100 years ago. Ochizor was acquainted and even a little bit of a member with this, and he knew Aubrey from his past. He did not know that Aubrey had a son, had a kinsman there, and it looked like when this town got set up, Aubrey Jr. was ready to go and set up his Particularity shop, and then you guys basically did your loot boxes, your little gacha rolls every time we did a session where we would roll through, give you items to go and buy. I probably should have given you more money so you were able to actually buy them, or just make them free in the end.
We got to roll to get a random item, but we still had to pay for the item.
Yeah, you just got to pay for the item at the best price it was, but some of those items are so expensive, it's just like, oh, that potion is 500 gold. If we all put our money together, we could buy 1 potion. Like, that's it.
Speaking of items, in this campaign, we all started out with one item,
yes,
magic item,
Everyone had
various
a +1 magic item except Cosmo, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think he did.
I think you had your jar, remember? The jar of mayonnaise and all the other things?
I'm pulling up my character
Didn't we find the
sheet.
jar from an enemy though?
There was a second one. There was a second one that
Okay.
came about, but he started with one of those jars that had that. I forget what the
Yeah.
actual jar name is called.
The alchemy jug.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was the
alchemy
alchemy jug. Yes, you did find a second one, but you specifically started with that alchemy jug to just have around it on your character. And yeah, everyone else started with a +1 weapon. One thing that I did with this campaign that I really liked was to kind of keep the marshals sort of on track and to keep them leveling up properly. I think that there was just sort of a natural point where they got upgraded to +2 weapons as well, which I really like. I like how good weapons go with tiers of play, where when you're at like level 1 through 5 you don't have like an upgraded weapon, but then once you get past 6 then you start getting +1 weapons. Then once you get past like 10 or 11 you start getting the +2s. Get past 15, 16, then you start getting +3s. And I feel like making those like free items, like free upgrades that are based on the weapons that they already have, because like if Dakian was able to get like a +3 weapon but it was just a +3 like battle axe or something, that wouldn't have hit exactly the same as him using his like iconic war pick.
Yeah.
So
Dagian did start with another weapon, because like you gave us +1 weapons, I think, but we also all started with like a free like random utility, like not even
Yes.
utility, just random item.
Yeah, it was one
Dagian-
uncommon, one common item, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because we picked from like a list of things you had, and
Mm-hmm.
Dagian had the Cloak of Billowing, which
Yeah.
its only purpose is that as a bonus action, your cloak billows in not the wind, it just billows.
It just
And so
billows.
Dagian, who like he did not really have a consistent bonus action use, so almost every combat turn I'd be like, okay, I attack, my cloak billows.
Exactly. You had to be efficient with your uses of your bonus action, even if it was just to make you look cool, which it absolutely did.
I know looking at his sheet, Cosmo also had a staff that would turn into a snake.
Oh, yeah.
No,
I
I
think
think
that
I
happened
used a
later. I
little
think that
bit.
happened a little bit later, though.
Did it?
Yeah.
I don't think that was immediate. I think that was like
I
dealing
don't
with some
remember
druids
that.
that you got that.
It's
I couldn't remember.
Because
Because I got the
Vipers, I think.
Yeah.
the staff of the Python.
Staff
Because
of
like
the
he also
Python.
has the moon sickle that he got
Moonsicle,
much later.
yeah, that was a later game upgrade, I think, because the Moonsicle actually helped you with. Well, actually, was that? I think the Moonsicle was gotten after this first season.
It was.
Because I'm pretty sure that was with the lizards.
No, it was part of the loot with when we.
Oh, or that was
Not-
at the end of season 2. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Because there was the druids there with the dragon that you got that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are actually almost at an hour here, so we'll just go and probably actually wrap up right here. We'll go and establish what you guys were doing in the town at this point, because after this point, there was a little bit of a time skip, maybe like a week or two, with you all getting established in the town, starting to do little things. So, do you guys remember what your character was trying to do in the town at this point while it was being rebuilt?
I
Was-
personally don't.
I know
This was
Ochizor was...
during-
yeah, like, it was right after you guys saved the town. Like, the town quest board didn't even get put up yet. I know Ochizor was, like, chilling with Aubrey, sort of, trying to reconnect with him, and, not reconnect, I guess, because... But, like, trying to, like, figure out what was going on with him, and just, like, seeing a kind of familiar face. Seeing the son of, one of your friends is definitely something he did not expect. But
Yeah.
and then I think he was also a little bit involved with Galio, but Galio immediately shut himself back into his room for a little bit and then started talking with him later.
Yeah. I can't remember if this is... I think Dagian might have just been helping with rebuilding because he is a big Loxodon. I don't think this is the moment where the House of Redemption gets built.
I think that is a little bit later. I think you and Shade
Yeah.
actually did the exact same thing. I think both of you were like on board to try to help finish like the walls of this place. Because, like, even on the map, like, the walls are not finished. Like, they needed to go and get finished.
I think Dagian might have wrote a letter to the Order of the Gauntlet, which I guess for the sake of like keeping things updated as we're talking, Dagian is a member of the Order of the Gauntlet and specifically the Oath of Redemption Paladins. So Dagian was here basically on a mission to kind of like reinforce the area after having helped like pacify some like tensions that were going around in the surrounding area with some of the orc tribes.
Yep.
But so I think Dagian was like writing a letter to the Order of the Gauntlet. It was like, hey, things are perhaps a little worse here than we thought they were. Like, there's definitely stuff going on. We've encountered Merkel and Talos, and the Order of the Gauntlet was like, hey man, we're stretched so thin right now. I don't think we can do anything about that.
Yeah, I think that you guys were just, like, you learned that the Order of the Gauntlet was stretched so thin that they really could not send anyone else over to go and really give you any more aid. You were very much just stuck there by yourself, and he's like, yep, hold firm, hold strong. This stuff in the east is crazy. I'm not able to go and really support you at all.
Oh yeah, I forgot that the Order of the Gauntlet was dealing with like what were they dealing with in the East again?
I think that was left ambiguous to go and try to add something for the plot at some other point. So technically, still hasn't been canonized or resolved yet. What they were dealing with in the East, I suppose that could probably be another campaign or another thing that's been going on. But there was some war over in the East that they just were struggling with and probably on the losing end of at that time.
Yeah, because I think like Dagian's like kind of like mentor who was like in charge of the Oath of Redemption sect of the Order of the Gauntlet was kind of like in charge of things up there, and so like Dagian was writing him and he was like, we can't do anything, I'm sorry.
Yep. That was going on. Cosmo, do you remember what you were doing at the time?
I wish I did.
I feel like did you do anything with like the crops or with nature or something like that? Did you like plant any trees or anything?
I don't think so. Was this too early to have investigated with the lizard people?
The lizard people happened specifically after season 1. So once all of these quests are done through, there are 3 more quests of the first season, where we've got the Thunder Cliffs, the House of Thalavar, and the Missing Patrol. After that, then you go and deal with some of the lizard folk.
I genuinely don't remember what I would have done.
That's fine. I think in general it was like just hey, this is what you guys were doing in the couple of weeks. Then we time skip. Next session, we immediately jump in to here's the problems that are arising, which I believe is what we will deal with next time, where we go and talk about the Lost Missing Patrol. So, yeah. Thank you guys for joining, and we'll go and post this up, and yeah. We'll go and talk to everyone else about this stuff. Wait, Lock of Shade's hair. What is in your inventory? Why? Oh wait, no, that was later on. I remember that. That's fun.
I do.
Stealth.
Dagian is currently, and by Dagian I mean me. I'm looking through Dagian's inventory and apparently have like a couple separate items that are listed as like lock or part of Shade hair.
Just so stealthy.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, okay. I remember what these were for.
Yeah. All right, we'll get into that. That'll be sometime in season 2, I think. But yeah, for right now, that is part 1 of season 1, where you guys get established in Leyland. You start getting established in this town, and we will go over some of the town's starting struggles, and we'll deal more with this cult of Talos specifically. Merkel made an appearance, but Talos is what's going to be sort of stealing this show for a little while. So with that, let's go and say goodbye to the recording, everyone.
Goodbye to the recording.
Goodbye, recording, everyone. There we go.